Okay, so trig students, in the first part of 6.5, real short video, we're going to talk about families of angles. And this is helpful for when you learn the unit circle. So really the important angles on a unit circle, when you learn that, are going to be your 30-degree angle, which is pi over 6, your 45-degree angle, which is pi over 4 radians, 60 degrees, pi over 3, and then quadrantal angles. I'll talk about what those are. Mainly what I want you to kind of know on this is how to count these out. You can count by 30, easy enough, 30, 60, 90, 120, and so forth. But, you have to learn how to count by radians too. So if you're in this pi over 6 family, when you count this out, all you're doing is counting out the numerator. So you'd say like 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, and so forth. But then you would reduce the fractions. So like, notice on this 2 pi over 6 is really pi over 3. 3 pi over 6 is pi over 2. 4 pi over 6 is 2 pi over 3. And 5 pi over 6 is already reduced. And then 6 pi over 6 is pi. So these angles right here are going to kind of create a family based on 30 degrees or pi over 6 radians. Okay, and the thing about this is you want to be able to just count those out real quickly and then reduce the fractions in your head. So that would be the pi over 6 family. You do the pi over 4 family the same way. 45 degrees, remember, you convert 45 degrees by multiplying by pi over 180, and that will reduce down to pi over 4. So you just count the numerator, 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi, while the denominator stays the same, and then you reduce. So 2 pi over 4 becomes pi over 2, 4 pi over 4 becomes pi, 6 pi over 4 becomes 3 pi over 2, and so forth. All right, so just count out that numerator while you keep the denominator the same, and then reduce. Okay, another family that's important is the pi over 6 family, which is 60 degrees. And again, just count by the numerator, 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi, while you keep the denominator the same. Reduce the fractions as they come across. So 3 pi over 3 would be pi, 6 pi over 3 would be 2 pi. So learning to recognize which family the angles in is important, but the number one thing is that you can just count these angles out in radians. Okay, that's the idea. Now, a quadrantal angle just means that you're not within a quadrant. What I mean by that is the quadrants go counterclockwise. That's quadrant 1, any point that's in this region. Quadrant 2 is in this region. Quadrant 3 is in this area. And then quadrant 4 is in this area. So if you have an angle that's on an axis, like for instance, if you had a 90-degree angle, that's quadrantal because its terminal side is on the y-axis. Okay. Another example would be like 180 degrees. 180 degrees would look like this. You start with your initial side, and then you go over to your terminal side, and you end up on the x-axis. So if your angle terminates on either the positive or negative x-axis, positive or negative y-axis, then it's called quadrantal. It's not within a quadrant. So you can count these out like this. It just goes by 90-degree increments. So you'd have like 0, 90, 180, 270, 360, and it's going to keep going on forever. And also the negative angles too. I didn't really write out the negative angles, but the negative angles could still be written out the same way. So you can count by, in radians like this, you just count by, 0 pi over 2, 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, and so forth, because pi over 2 is 90 degrees. And then reduce the fractions. Of course, that would be 0. Then you'd have pi over 2. 2 pi over 2 is pi. 3 pi over 2 is already reduced. 4 pi over 2 is 2 pi, and so forth. So the idea is you want to be able to tell if it's which family it's in. Okay, and there's a couple of ways to show you how to do this. You know, it's actually pretty simple. If you were going through and say that you had, let me just kind of make up an example here. Say that you had a 1200 degree angle, and for whatever reason you wanted to know what family that's in. Well, you just find what it's divisible by. Is it divisible by 30? Sure it is. So if you take that and divide that by 30, it comes out as a whole number. So that would mean that this is in the 30 degree family. Okay, well, is it in the 45 degree angle family? Well, do this. Take the 1200, divide it by 45. That's got decimals. Okay, that's 26.6. So you're not in the 45 degree family. Do 1200 divided by 60. What happens if you do 1200 divided by 60? You get 20. So that is in the 60 degree family also. So if you're in the 30 degree family, you might also be in the 60 degree family. If you are in the 60 degree family, you're automatically in the 30 degree family. Okay, then the other thing would be, okay, is it quadrantal? No, it's not quadrantal, because if you did 1200 divided by 90, what you'd end up getting is 13.3. So it's not in that. So really, if you had an angle in degrees, all you'd really need to do is just divide by 30, 60, 45, or 90 to see which family it's in. If it's in radians, it's just as easy to go ahead and convert it to degrees and then divide by 30, 60, 90, or 45. Okay, so I think on your homework there might be a few problems where they're asking, which family is it in? Well, that's how you do it. But the number one thing is you want to know how to count out these angles in radians. That's the big thing that you want to know how to do. Okay, that's all I'm going to do on that part of the video. So I hope that helps you with that.